All right, I want to do a TA video today. Um, so I created a pretty fucking good indicator, uh, and I like it. I like it a lot. Took me a long time to make it though. Let's see computer up just a little bit there. All right, but like these are my old templates that I have. Well, they're old now, but probably two of the best I've ever made before. Um, This one right here has cycle analysis in it, right? From trough to trough. You got the minor trough, and then you got the dominant cycle. And this one was pretty much like a right handed translation. And you had the minor cycle within that. And that was like when it went down to around $2.80. $2.80, yeah. And then this is the area that I was looking at, the area of interest for me, anyways, um, with psychoanalysis. And then it was confirmation when you had like the institutional buy signal go off. That was kind of like confirmation. Um, let's see here, yeah. Then you had all this, these blue lines here basically saying that it's oversold. There's many different directions that it could go into. Um, it's interchangeable. So it all depends on what your priority is to focus on. But I try to keep everything in mind. Within the low zone, you got the institutional signal going off right there. You got this overbought zone right here. The cycle analysis is right there, and you got all this good stuff going on over here. You had a this is the regime. So you had, believe it or not, this was a positive regime right there. But it rolled over probably, I want to say, about right there. That's around the top down cycle analysis over here, around that area also. And as soon as this blue started decreasing and going, as soon as it went orange right there, that was it. It was done. It was going to go down. But I didn't have this indicator back then, so unfortunately, I didn't know half the shit. Not even. I didn't know 90% of the TA that I know now back then. I didn't, so yeah, it's been a really cool ride. Um, so right here in this zone where we're currently at, it looks like the whales or the institutional buy signal is kind of like it's also a whale signal, so it's like somewhere in between there. Um, is already starting to dissipate. And usually, what happens is, you know, nothing goes up in a straight line. You have to have, your rotations. It has to breathe. You can't stretch the rubber band out too far before it snaps. Resets, right? Um, so we're in that point where we should start seeing like this zone right here is pointing out consolidation. Like when you get this green right here, that green right there, and the blues right here, they matched up perfectly. They matched up perfectly. This one right here didn't have one, but you know, it's there. This one didn't have one here, but it's there. when you get them layered, when they start stacking on one another, it's like the confidence level increases dramatically. Um, so yeah, I'm expecting it. If it can hold to around $3 and I want to say $3.15. If it can hold above $3.15, right, and consolidate and never break around that area, give or take 5 cents for margin of error, but it would be good for the next run up. I think the consolidation should last for at least the last days of this month, which is probably going to be got a week and a day or two. So typically, for my research, Clover Health, the first 2 weeks of the month is greenish. Then, as the month proceeds, it turns more reddish. So, not to say that it doesn't have any green days, just says the average, the first 2 weeks versus the last 2 weeks. Uh, the first 2 weeks are better than the last 2 weeks. And then, of course, Thursdays are the worst day, and then Wednesdays are the best day. Mondays used to be the best day. They're not the best day anymore. V8. I like these fruity ones. Um, this one's the mixed berries, but it's pretty badass. I like V8 in general. Um, so yeah, it's building up. So I would expect to see some kind of consolidation coming up, at least for the next is 7 to 10 days, probably. Yeah, 7 to 10 days. Um, then the other one that I have, this one's a little bit different, but it's speaking the same language. Um, get some divergences going on over here. Oh, and when I called the bottom, right? Um, my candlestick right here, right? When I called it, I was measuring the volatility between areas of interest, right? Every time it had a buying opportunity, um, don't want to go too far back, just far back enough. So this zone right here of interest was typically around, what was that, 42 bars. This one right here was better, right? You can see it had a lot of oversold zones going on over here, right? This was a better buying opportunity than this one because it didn't have too much going on. I mean, yeah, there was some buying, it just wasn't as good as the 60 cents level. See, that was 80 cent, 88 cents, and then this was like 63 cents. Um, but yeah, typically those buying zones they last for about a good 42 bars, 46 bars, 55 bars, but this one's a little stretched because it had a pretty good bounce right there. Um, and this one's 48 bars, right? And then within this one, there's always going to be a bottom. There, there, technically here, and then there. But this was a double bottom. Let me check. There's a double bottom here. You got a double bottom there, and then I would even call that a double bottom. I mean, from from what I'm looking at, you know, doing psychoanalysis, doing technical analysis. Well, This form of technical analysis is gauges. You don't draw anything; you use gauges. So they're measurements, just math. Um, Double bottoms happen more often than not. There's a V recovery, one bottom, right? That's it. That's it. But double bottoms happen more than the V recoveries, especially important ones. Really important bottoms always have at least a double bottom. Sometimes they have the inverse head and shoulders, but if they don't have the inverse head and shoulders, at least you win it hard on the head. If it don't produce a shoulder, then you win. If it does produce a shoulder, then you can buy the dip, right? So it's a win-win situation, right? I would go a little bit in, not aggressive on the first, you know, first bottom area, which would probably been right here, right, or right here, right, or right here. But then once it went lower, I would have got aggressive right there, right. I would have got aggressive here, here, there, which I planned, and I did go aggressive there. Um, and if it was going to be a inverse head and shoulders, then I still was prepared for a the shoulder right there, right? And then, so yeah. Nevertheless, I didn't expect it to happen because of how it's set up. How it's like patterns repeat themselves. You just got to know how to perceive them. And then once we started getting all these fair value gaps, that's it. Once you see that shit, look like this right here: fair value gap, fair value gap, fair value gap, gap, right? And then technically there were some up here, but since it retraced down past that level, right down here, they got wiped out. So I had to redo it, and it did it right over here. We done all those fair value gaps, fair value gap. That's all institutional buying right there. That's what that's how I perceive it. It's institutional buying. Otherwise, it would never constructed a fair value gap. And then like you had a whole bunch of oversold zones here. There was a bull signal there. And I do have some a different version of cycle analysis over here as an indicator. So it's basically predicting when the troughs are going to come to an end. So it predicted this one. This one, it said it predicted the absolute bottom right here with these little triangles, right? It's saying they got a minor one coming up here, which we're technically in that zone because it's not perfect, right? You're gonna have to have some kind of margin of error, so it's in this zone right here, right? From there to there. Then you got another one. This one's more important. This is where I think the trial could be coming to an end before the next bull leg up. So I think it's gonna do something like this, right? Shit. Okay. So first thing we need to do is we need to pretend so I think this here, damn it. Man. Okay. So this right here, this zone we're currently in, is this pullback, is this um, cycle's trough. So I think we're going to do something like that right there, right? And then we're going to come back up, and we're probably going to hit the same high we hit last time, which is right here where this order block is at. And then we're going to swing back down. And I think this zone right here is probably the strongest because of that fair value gap is pretty fucking intense. That's around $3, but I don't think it's gonna make it there. I think it's just gonna bounce off of it real quick, or around it real quick. So should do something like that, right? Not necessarily at $3, but somewhere in this zone right here. Yeah. Maybe that fair value gap right there would be the best place to have it. That's at 218, 216. Well, I said 215 earlier, so we'll say 250. I mean, 315. Um, so yeah, that's what we'll do. 315. So let me get a line right here. We're gonna do a horizontal line. We're gonna put it right here. Boom. Nope, 315. We'll lock that motherfucker in place right there. So let's do that drawing again. So we came up right here, right? And then now we're gonna go down. And then we're gonna come up. It don't have to be perfectly where that dot is at. It's just got to be in that zone. So we can say it's kind of stretched out, right? And then wherever, we split the difference. Well, let's see here. Here and here, this one's going to be longer, right? So it's going to be outward a little bit more. But the center's from here to here. So if I had to September, August, July. Oh, seasonality suggests that June, July, and August are the green months of the, you can say the healthcare sector, but Clover Health itself in general. So if we add that into the equation, right, we would think that June, see, so right after that trough is made, somewhere right there, and then see here, August. Let's say somewhere in August, and I'm just gonna pick this spot right there. Right. As seasonality is considered, right? Now it can, you know, it's like a pendulum, right? You always go to the extremes. So if that's the case, then there might be a third push that goes higher towards the end of the year. It could be. So I push one, consolidate, push two, consolidate, push three, all the way to the end of the year. And the option chain suggests, right, that Clover Health is going to be $7 by January. Just like it suggested it was going to be $3.50 Friday. Um, and if that's correct, then if the options do play a big part in it, and that's correct, then saying $7 by January should be correct too. At least $5 plus, because there are options for $5 too. So it can pivot somewhere in the middle. I want to say uh, base case. No, no, no. I want to say bear case $5 and above. Base case $7, give or take a few dollars. Dollar, not a few. And bull case $10 by January. Um, so yeah, that's what I think about that. So we got the those the institutional buys and sells signal, right? And the oscillators were going good, right? You had the this is another form of psychoanalysis. Um, you want to get it when they're all really bottoming in that zone, right? So if we look closely here, um, right here at this zone, it was this cycle came down and touched it, and you had three different cycles all collaborating together saying that it's completely oversold. So that's how that works. Um, let's take a look at the order blocks for the future, which I don't have any up there. But um, the order flow, the order book suggests that $10 is a good target. Okay, let me see here. I'm trying to create a day trader version of like cycles and trading. I'm just trying to shrink it down to a smaller size, basically. What I do with the daily chart. Um, so I started working on this one here. Trying to find something cool. And of course, the indicator that I created is a different form of the cycle analysis indicator that I created with has to do with price action. This other one has to do with accumulated volume delta, so it's a little bit different. It's more, um, it sees things quicker. Basically, it's first strike type of deal, right? Um, Now I'll show you on this one here. This is a little more cleaner. It's on the daily graph. So this one here, this one here is just my cycle analysis, right? Just cycles with price action, right? That's it. It's just pure candlesticks, whatever, right? Now this other one that I've created, right? This is going to be CVD. So it does it with the cumulative volume delta instead, rather than price. And there's a big difference here because if you add it into the institutional, buy signals, basically the whale signals, right? Um, what you can see, it's always acting first, right? So it basically says buy the dip. And I mean, don't get me wrong, the institutional signal says buy the dip also, but it gives you zones of interest, right? And then if you time it with the actual price action, the actual cycles that is going on over here, right? So if we look back, you can see the, I think I have it set up, what's that, 4 hour, 3 day, and 6 day. So I think this combined together, these time frames work pretty awesome. Um, uh, but what we can see here is that the cumulative volume delta is basically it's the proof in the pudding, right? You can have psychoanalysis on price action, right? But accumulative volume delta CBD is what backs it up, right? So technically, and I created this too here. I have it for CBD only, but I created different methods in order to calculate it, right? So you got price plus CBD, 50-50. Then you got it leans towards CBD, 60%, 70%, 75%, and 80%, which the 70 to 30 is really good. But if you really want to be like, optimized the fullest, then you'll go with the 75-25. That one is good. But for this scenario, we're just going to be looking at this. Um, because this is how it works. Okay, you see this signal right here, right? Then we come over here, and then we're going to go ahead and add that to that, and say it went from here to there, right? Before that signal came to an end. And then you can see that it was oversold in this zone here and this zone here, which would have been really good times to buy here and here, right? So that's a double bottom. Like it happens most of the time, right? Um, Especially it's completely oversold to some kind of degree, to a pretty good degree with that dark green going on there, right? But CBD acts differently. It acts first because it's the actual buying pressure that goes into it. That's what this, this institutional buy and sell signal indicator down here, the whale signal down here, right? Um, so it acts first. So it tells you, right, to buy the dip, right? Now you get confirmation that it's going to work out once you start seeing price move up in the, in the os or the cycles, right? You start seeing it move up because it's going to move up because it cycles price, so they're going to move up, right? But see, CBD was already up, and the reason why it was already up because all of this section right here was being bought by whales, by institutions, by big money. You could actually draw a line from here to here, and I'm not a good artist, right? And do it like that, and do an eye there, right? You could say that's his mouth. And then there's a blowhole right there. You can draw a fin on his ass, and then that's a whale bottom right there. That's what it looks like. You know, you got that like back over here. You had it here in this zone, right? You had it here in this zone, right? You had it over here in this zone, and you had a little bitty one right there. So, um, yeah, he was the whale guy, right? Going fishing. Where's he at? He's gone now. He went back to the ocean. Free Willy. Um. So yeah, this is the CBD's first strike, right? It's basically backing it up. CBD's elevated, right? And then you see a bottom, like a really strong bottom come in. CBD being elevated, suggesting there's a lot of participants coming in and buying. You got your institutional signal goes off. You got this bottom zone right there. If you get all of those and you line it all up, you can buy the bottom, pretty much the absolute bottom. Now you don't really need this one right here, but it's like a confidence type of deal, right? But the zone that was being bought when it really started kicking off, I want to say started off right here, right? I mean, yeah, there was buying going on right here, this whole thing, because that's when the level started getting elevated, right? Price wouldn't. Price is gonna lie to you, because you're not gonna get people. They like to buy, but not the price go up, right? So it's better not to be rewarded while you're buying, but after. At least that's the way I'm looking at it. With the all this information is collaborating together. Um, so yeah, you started seeing participants coming in. They started buying here. They got a little bit more heavier over here because of the higher time frames mean a little bit more. But we're starting to see a contraction going on over here, or losing momentum. The 3 day is crossed underneath the 6 day here, right? So it's losing its buying pressure right there, and I would say yeah, pretty much started. I'd say like that's when it really started getting bad. About right in this zone. Right when price went oversold, both of the indicators there, and then it struggled. It looks like it's trying to recover, but after you get something like this, right, like this, usually you're going to have the opposite take effect. So down here, there should be some type of action coming along before the next action starts, right? Because that's what creates your cycles in the first place. So being said, we're gonna see something like that. I said it on the other chart over here. I deleted it already, but it's gonna be something like that. Then we're gonna get the next breakout, probably to $5, $5.50 or something. It's gonna be by August. Then we're gonna have a fake out, right? Shake out on the weekends. They're gonna think, oh, $5. Oh my God, we made it to the moon, right? And that shit's gonna fucking go over here. It's gonna go to 750 or something, go sideways, and if it's really got some power to it, and people are pumping, 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 Clover Health to the moon, Clover Health to the moon, right? We should see that shit go up again towards the end of the year, all the way to January. Um, I don't think it's gonna make it that far. I'm gonna try that again. Get rid of this too. Whatever. Yep. And something like that. And then start consolidating, and then by January or something, it'll probably be over $7, going back to retest the high, and then I don't know what's gonna happen after that, but I don't know. I can see that happening with all the information that I have. I can see that happening. Uh, if it doesn't happen, oh well. And I'm gonna have to delete all these. Okay, so yeah, the the CBD cycle analysis is different than the price cycle analysis. And they both have to work as a unit, right? In order to be more precise, to be efficient. So as of right now, CBD is rolling down, and we can go to the intraday version of the same thing. So we got this big ass uptrend right here, and how I'm setting this up, um, is that it's going to be trend based, right? It's going to be the longer time frame based, trading scenario, right? Whenever that time comes. So when you're in an uptrend, right, you never want to sell the tops. You never want to sell the tops. At least that's what I did some trading on here with that idea, and it doesn't work. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna find the bottom. Well, let me see here. This indicator. This is gonna be the 50-50, right? 50-50. It gives you some false signals sometimes, but that's the reason why I have my other indicators. It's better to work with 70-30, honestly. Um, so I probably will do that. So you can see all of this was buying. The longer time frame that I have on here is what 10, the 8 hour. Right, so that's my long time frame: 8 hour, 30 minute, and 10 minute. Right. So depending on where you want to go be at, like wherever you started from, and I don't think anyone it could be possible you could start from the absolute bottom, right here, like $1.60. You could have been there because you could have seen CBD rolling up, getting stronger in the higher time frames, and decided to dip in, right? See it, try your luck. Mm, it's an upward cycle down. So if it was me, I probably would have jumped in maybe somewhere in between this zone right here, especially with that being there. That would have been a good opportunity. So I could have jumped in right there, started seeing the fair value gaps go up, right? Started seeing the long term. cycle going up, um, and then eventually either let's see here, eventually either right here where this go short signals at, I would have locked in gains right there, right, and then looked for another opportunity, which probably been you want to see this going on here. You don't want to jump in without that. At least one of them. So and then you got some bottoming signals coming up here. You got this. You got a bottoming zone right there. The uptrend is there. So that would have been a buy. And if you would have cashed out pretty fucking quick, could have made profit fast. Otherwise, you would have staggered going sideways. This is the 10-minute chart. So, I mean, you could either lock in a little bit of profit or just fucking added more to your account and see how long it's going to take for you to get somewhere. Uh, that's not day trading. That's more like swing trading. So, but yeah, could have been there. No, that's more of a buy zone. Mm, yeah, if it was me and I got it in somewhere right here, right? That was gonna be like what $1.88, and then I didn't get anything there. And I came down to this zone, seen that, seen the bottom coming up, strength still high. Probably would have added more here, which would probably be a 190, right? And then it went up to whatever the top zone right there, turned red. Um, then I would have been out right then because I can't hold overnight. So then you'll be swing trading, right? Um, and then we go to smaller time frames, but the 10 is small enough for now. Shit. So it's just like an experimental type of deal, right? So these green blocks and the red ones, they're significant as well. Um, so that one's basically a sell, and this one's a buy. Because that's over, right? It's pretty much. I need to flip the colors, make it green down here, like that one is. But yeah, you could have bought here in this zone where this red is at, and then see that fair value gap, knew it was going to hold. Could have lowered your position right there or added to it because we are in an uptrend, right? You see it right here, the dotted lines. You don't want to fight the trend. The trend is your friend. And you can see how it's starting to slope and turning over here. That's a great sign, right? Um, it bottomed out there. You could have added more to your position because there's another fair value gap there, and then went up to here. Then eventually said, "Oh well, shit, turned red. It's time to, make it get out so I can make another move somewhere else." Then you could have done it again here, right? With that there, kind of like in the bottom zone right there, fair value gap right there. It's only small moves in the beginning though. Could have went here, probably around there a little better. Then waited. Could have added to your position and then fair value gapped. Had that short signal go off. Locked in profit on that area right there. You could have just continued doing the same thing here. Waited. It got to the top of the cycle. Somewhere in one of these zones, of course, like that. These are kind of small, so it's not that much. But hey, beggars can't be choosers, right? So locked it in there somewhere. Wants to turn dark red also. It's already starting to show weakness in the downward cycle. But then it really starts rolling over right here. Right? So that way, that's going to be chopped. And that's pretty much what it did. And then it recovered right around here. So that was the start of it. Started ticking up. So it didn't make lower lows anymore, made a higher low right there. So you could have got in here, trading the chop. You could have done that, but I don't know. It would have to be like a really good sign to buy. It probably would have been this zone right here. That this has got bullish divergence right there. So I'll just add it into that. Then maybe more right there. And then pop some point of time. There you go. Then once again here. And there you go. Then once again here. And get it double down there. And there you go. Then it's going. It's starting to stagnate now. Um, the 8 hour cycle says that we're trying to push up, but you can see if it doesn't get back above the 90% level, then it's actually making lower lows. If it goes sideways here, if it goes lower even after going up, because this is where we're judging the higher highs from. Then it'll create a divergence, and then it'll retrace like I showed you in the other charts. So yeah, that's a pretty cool thing. Can we convert it to price or just CBD by itself, right? Not half and half. Oh yeah, there you go. That's not good because remember CBD is what's it called? First strike. It's it moves first, right? So you got the higher time frame over here going down. It's not good, right? That means there's no participants. Participants starting to get you know running out there. You go to price over here, saying it's still elevated, but it's turning down, right? And you combine them together 50-50, then you get that mix. But if we do something more like 75-25, it's going to look like that. It's still kind of like trying to go up a little bit, but it's stagnating. But I don't know. I think I would trust the original. I mean, it's fun to have these hybrids, but it's can't beat the original, right? Can't beat the real thing. Can't beat the real thing, baby. Yeah, not good. And I did say that, like right here, typically what happens is once you have something like, like this, you're gonna have something like that. And you're gonna have something like this, and like that, this, then that. It's just the name of the game. All right. I think I'm pretty much done with this video. Uh, Remember my prediction of my due diligence above $5 by the end of the year. Period. I'm, I'm betting on seven though. Betting on seven because of the options chain, right? Um, and if we really got something going on, then we can see $10. Could see $10. So we'll find out. See you guys later.